Hello, everyone. This is Martin Valko and Nick Chavez coming to you at the end of the week. This is our weekly wrap up, and so we welcome you to this week's program. Nick is in our Fort Worth office. I'm in our Dallas office, and we will go over a few things that we wanted to discuss. The update on the Build Back Better bill, and also about some updates from the USCIS. Nick, how's it going?
Doing great. Great. I can't believe it's time has passed really quickly this year. We're already going into 2022. Seems like it was just yesterday that we're getting out of COVID. It was 2020 and now we're here. You're wearing a Santa hat. That's amazing. That's where we're at, December.
Yeah,
You are going to be spending Christmas in Slovakia.
I leave for Slovakia on Sunday, and I'm going to join my family that left a few days earlier and celebrate Christmas with my family, with my parents, and then also the New Year's, and we'll be back the first week of January. The hat
Yeah.
is a nice touch.
Yeah.
As we signaled last couple of weeks or last few weeks, we've been collecting toys for needy children, organizations, nonprofits that we work with. And what we do is we swap the consultation fees for toys. So prospective clients get to participate, and then at the end of the year, we split up these toys and deliver them. So yesterday I was delivering toys to the Mosaic Shelter,
Nice.
to kids that are currently there. And also today, we've delivered the rest of the toys from the Dallas office to a group called Avance we've been working with
Mm-hmm.
for several years. This is a fantastic organization that educates and coaches young families, young mothers, single mothers, and so we've been working with them as well on Know Your Rights presentations,
Yep.
and just kind of giving them updates and information about rights they have within the immigration law system. So this is Donovan from Avance who picked up these toys earlier today, and so we're happy to do this to participate every year. And I believe, Nick, next week you'll be doing the same thing in Fort Worth.
Yeah, doing it's for a community health worker association. It's a year long drive that they have, and my understanding, toys are in limited supply this year, so it's a very good thing that we got these toys there with Advance on time, and hopefully we'll do the same next week.
Perfect. Okay, so it's kind of a
One other question though.
yeah.
Speaking, this seems to be like a really interesting topic or question. Slovakia, do you open Christmas gifts in the morning or at midnight?
So it's midnight or really after dinner on the 24th on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
So we don't follow the tradition where you wake up on the Christmas day and then you open up the presents. By that point, you've been just so worn out with playing with the toys that you are just sleeping in
Yeah.
on the 25th. But now we do everything in the evening on the Christmas Eve. So
Gotcha.
after you eat dinner in our family, we have a tradition. We have a little bell, and we ring that after the dinner. And so once the bell was rung, then it's time to discover the toys or the presents, and then
So
start
the
opening them up.
bell, when you hear the ding 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 ding, it's like like that steady dog. You hear
Yeah,
something, it's like a
Pavlov's
reward.
dog, right? We've been
Yeah,
conditioned.
Pavlov. Yeah, that's great. Well,
How,
I'll need to incorporate that in our.
how about? Well, you may start salivating or something. Who knows? But
Yeah, right.
how about in your family?
Oh, we're going to go to El Paso. That's where I'm from, and uh, they do. It's a big Mexican family with tamales and everything. But our family is split on when to open presents. So we got one side have some tios and tias, aunts and uncles. That no, it has to be midnight because that's the majority of Mexican citizens do it that way. And then, but we've always done it in the morning, so it's kind of a mix and match of things. I'm looking forward to it.
Maybe you should try it. Maybe you should do it on Christmas Eve.
We have. Christmas Eve is good. If you're a kid, actually, Christmas Eve was perfect. Just staying up late. That's the challenge these days. As we get older, staying up till midnight might be too stressful sometimes. It's just like, you've eaten already. You want to go to bed.
Right, that's right. Okay, so it's a little somber today because of what we've learned yesterday afternoon, and so we just wanted to talk briefly about the Build Back Better bill that passed the House, and it was waiting. It was going through what's called the Burt Bath. And the senators were waiting to hear from the Senate parliamentarian, who was basically a referee who decides what's going to go into this particular reconciliation bill, which can avoid the filibuster rule. So it basically takes a simple majority, which would be all Democrats and independents voting together, plus the vice president's vote. And so because it is just such a special provision, and this is the reconciliation bill that has to do with the budget, anything that is considered has to have an effect on the budget, on the revenue, and it cannot be just mere incidental. And so we were waiting for about several weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. She's already denied the Plan A and Plan B, and this was a Plan C that got denied as well. So it seems like it's strike 3 for the Democrats, and we don't know if there's going to be a Plan D. What do you think, and what have you heard?
Well, it's interesting, and not much. There's a lot of there's a sense of defeatism, I guess, if you will. People are very discouraged because they were riding high. Now, you mentioned those previous plans, and they started off trying to get the pathway to citizenship, which was getting a legal status, permanent resident status for those who were dreamers, people who have TPS, something meaningful. Well, that didn't go through, and then they try to do it with Plan B with a different law, that didn't go through, and then Plan C, they're settling more. They're wanting to have this parole for an estimated 7 million undocumented immigrants, which is great. It's more than nothing, but that failed. And the whole thing is that could they convince this parliamentarian, which is it's a senator, it's an advisor essentially, and can we convince this person that these immigration measures are going to affect the economy positively? And you mentioned last week, right? We thought, well, yeah, I mean, the fees are going to go up. That's going to be a stream of revenue for the government. And parliamentarians said, nope, but it's not. And so where are we at? And we've heard some senators discuss, I don't know, Plan D, which would be interesting to hear. If we do hear something, we'll pass that along. And this is something that they might have to go and speak with some senators, Republican senators. Ironically, 8 years ago, the Senate did pass immigration reform, and it was up. It was really good. And who was pushing that? Lindsey Graham. So
Marco Rubio, Graham, the Gang of 8, right?
The Gang of 8. Yeah, it's the irony here. It's crazy. It's that they won't do it now, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's unlikely that we'll see anything, of course, this year, but hopefully that would invigorate some more discussions with up on the Hill. It is defeating. It is discouraging. It is we feel we've been let down, and we've been through this before, where they just punt it away. They're not fixing the problem when there are a lot of problems to fix. They just keep on sweeping it under the rug, and yet you hear people say, "Well, the system is broken. Let's do something about it." Or, "Why are there so many illegal immigrants here? We should do something about that." Or, well, that's what they're trying to do, and it benefits everyone. It benefits the economy. It benefits people who are increases wages for everyone, American workers. So it's a win-win-win-win in all columns. And but politics, right?
Yeah, it seems like it's always been political, and I hate to sound skeptical, but it's almost it almost doesn't matter which party is in power, and nothing's getting done, and it's been couple of decades, and something has to happen because even employers, part of our practice, as is our I-9 audits, basically checking on compliance of employers to see if they have authorized workforce, and there are different types of audits, but the real audits come when ICE comes and knocks on their doors, and they will review the paperwork, the I-9s, and the supporting documentation, and realize that a fairly high percentage of the employees that are employed by specific employers are unauthorized, and we've done audits where 20, 30, 40, 50% of workforce, unbeknownst to the employer, was unauthorized, because there's your paper-based I-9 compliance, and then there's your electronic, the E-Verify.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the paper-based compliance allows for hiring an authorized workforce, even though the employer, the HR person, doesn't know about it until there's an audit. And so a lot of employers, take their chances. They perhaps send something. Again, it can be particular knowledge that they have, but they wouldn't dare going through E-Verify, because they would know that that's just the state of the economy and in various industries. So when you look at constructions and food and beverage and hospitality, and I mean, it's just the construction, landscaping, it's fairly high. And so if those employers were to utilize E-Verify, then a lot of new prospective employees would not even sign up. They would not even apply for a job. And so they're willing to roll the dice and see if they'll get audited. And if they do get audited, then they're going to have to let people go. And we've done, a number of such audits of small and big employers. And that's the bottom line, that there is a high unauthorized workforce. And so having this type of a parole would certainly increase the wages. It would make people come out of the shadows and live and participate in a better way in the society. And so they still pay taxes. They still pay local state sales taxes and other things. Sure. So they're contributing to the economy. So I don't know. We've over the years spoke to many congressional representatives and try to tell them, what to do and how to do it, and just be there for any type of advice that they need. But they will have to work together, because it seemed like it's just been highly partisan, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's in power. And so, something, hopefully will happen. And it seems like it might happen on, I think you brought it up, on the Republicans' terms, where you're going to get more stricter on security and border security, and then perhaps have something bubble up so they can address that.
But we'll see what happens without that.
Really, I think what we just wanted to talk about today, there was a report from the USCIS, Immigration Services, their end of the year report, where they're just discussing their successes and goals going forward. And so we'll touch up on a few of those, and then we'll wrap it up. Really, not much to talk about today. Again, hopefully will be a plan D. Although some of the key Democratic senators we're not sure that there's a plan D.
Yep.
And you hear this roar of mostly progressive House of Representatives, or the representatives from the House, that are calling for overruling of the Senate parliamentarian, the
Right.
referee. But it seems like Senator from West Virginia, Manchin, indicated that he would not do that. He would not overrule him. So that's, if his vote is out, then it just wouldn't work. So we'll see. Hopefully there will be a plan D, but we don't know. So what grabbed your attention in this report from USCIS?
You mean your pat yourself on the back report they just issued? Look, I think they want to show that, look, this is what we've been doing. We've been responsive. And looking at that list, some of it, I'll give credit where credit is due. And I think under some of those items there, they should be given credit. And let's face it, the administration faced a two-headed monster here. They faced the Trump era policies, which were they limited immigration, right? They tried to make things really tough, and so they had to undo all that. And then on top of that, we had a worldwide pandemic, and so these things don't fix themselves overnight. They take time. Yes, but strategy, being thoughtful and not inefficient or wasteful, and that's something that we're also looking for. So when I read this report, I thought, in some areas, I think they should be given some credit. They talked about, for example, they said, well, look, we in response to COVID, we created these policies or these rules where we made it more easier. We made it more flexible. That's the word they used for applicants to submit their paperwork if they are under some sort of deadline, or if immigration requests evidence and gives them a deadline, they're going to go ahead and extend that deadline. So in that sense, I think I applaud that. I think that was reasonable. If you might have a case, if you're listening, you might have a case where you filed something and the government, USCIS specifically, they said that we need more information. So we'll give you 2 more months for you to provide us this information. Well, that time, they give you extra time beyond what they give you to respond, which is great. And that's been good. Also, the good thing, we were talking about some of the policies under Trump. I'm sure you remember this, where if an applicant submitted some paperwork and evidence with their application packet, and the officer in reviewing that application packet thinks, this is not enough. Under the Trump policies, that officer could say, you didn't give me what I wanted, I'm going to go ahead and deny it, without giving that applicant a chance to correct it. We all make mistakes. Sometimes the instructions themselves are not too clear. And, applicants pay a pretty penny. They pay these fees for them to process it, and they should at least give them the opportunity to correct it. And that's what happened. They went ahead and gave them that chance. Other things that I applaud them for is the delays, right? We hate delays. And so in some applications, for those who are applying for renewals of employment, work permits, or resident cards, usually part of the requirement is that the person show up and do a biometric, for them to take their fingerprints so they can run a clearance or criminal check. Well, they're skipping that part. which I think is great. We talked last week about medical examinations, how they're extending those. So I do applaud them for those measures, and hopefully they'll keep that up. I don't think they have the resources. They're trying to take care of that. They're trying to put more resources and distribute resources more efficiently. We'll see what happens. But we're still seeing long processing time. So it's something that they have to look at next year and see how they can strategize and like I said, maybe put in more resources in processing the applications.
Yeah. How do you enjoy the online filing thus far?
Well, we tried it. We tell our clients, look, it has its advantages. If you need a receipt right away, in some situations you might need a receipt if you're applying for a certain benefit, and you're at an agency and they're asking for a receipt or proof that you have an application in process. That's good. And also you have something where you can check up. There are some downsides to it, though. And one of them is that we don't necessarily know how long. I mean, there are some situations that we look at it and they say, or we see that USCIS might be processing those faster, but not necessarily for all cases. And that part is very uncertain. And it's also kind of clunky to use in a way. I mean, I don't know if you tried it. There's some good ideas in not being wasteful by using this technology. And one of them is, I mentioned, when the agency reaches out and asks for additional information to complete the process, well, they send you a notice for that. And you have to submit them some documentation by mail. Well, one way they can cut down some time and really maximize this technology is to do it via the account, the online system, where they send that information over to you and you upload the documents and let them determine it. So those are things that I hope they will fix. It remains uncertain, but we're hopeful.
Yeah, I mean that's the future, obviously, with everything, and maybe in the future we'll meet officers in metaverse, right?
Metaverse, yeah,
and have interviews. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe the Oculus, which, by the way, I went ahead and bought that for my daughter.
But hopefully she's not watching. She's not watching this
virtual. No, she won't be watching. I promise. She just said, "Oh, this is Martin, Dad." Okay, all right. She'll just skip over it. But the virtual reality stuff, they have this thing where you could, and talking about technology, right? We have the sensor here, but they have this really cool thing where you can get an app, and it's a meeting setting where you could be meeting people, and man, that'd be great if you could do everything virtually, right?
If you want to see Nick dance again. There you go.
I don't know what kind of
technology in action.
That's my end of year dance.
No, but it's they I recently spoke to a director at the Dallas field office who also mentioned that the pandemic taught them something just like it taught employers like ourselves how to be more efficient and how to work remotely, and so he brought up remote interviews, and we already see that in the immigration court setting, where you may have different judges from different parts of the country hear the trial and make decisions. And so that's what they will be looking at as well. If they have somebody who has an empty desk or has still some volume to process some new cases, they may interview a couple here in Dallas or in San Antonio somewhere. And so they are looking into that as well. But definitely, like you mentioned, the clunkiness has to be worked out on the online filing and the various notifications. But there's just so much thought that has to go into the logic and who participates and what are the parties and who can see what and who can upload what. So it's pretty difficult, and so that has to get worked out. But I think once they'll figure it out, and especially the inner workings between different agencies, that would be really, really good. So, well, hopefully it's going to improve. There's only a few cases that you can, few types of forms you can file online, but they've been slowly expanding it to new forms. So, again, we're hopeful that that's going to improve in the future. Anything else that grabbed your attention in that email?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that they should get credit for is doing, we talked about Trump era policies, right? They're trying to limit immigration, make it tougher for people to be here, to live here, immigrants specifically. And so one of those rules was the public charge rule. And that's that rule that a few years ago that the Trump administration implemented. And this was a rule where you just made it tougher for applicants to apply for a green card, because they had to meet a certain threshold or standard of evidence to prove that, look, they're not going to be a public charge. They're not going to be relying on food stamps. And of course, there's this machine, this, I guess, propaganda machine that came out from that administration saying, hey, look, they're relying on public welfare. They're not only taking your jobs, but they're also using food stamps and using public. And that was not the case at all, And so that fear, they put these rules out. The public charge rule, a person had to submit an 18-page form about their credit history, financial history, and all that. You don't have to do that anymore. So that's one thing that was really good about this administration. We're giving grades out in terms of how they handled certain policies like public charge. I mean, obviously they get an A for that.
Good. And so we know the DACA is still going through the process of rulemaking. There were what was it, 9,000 public comments on the rulemaking process. So although you expect that it would be litigated again once it's unveiled, but the difference between the executive action that was set forth by the President Obama back in 2012 versus an actual rule being created will make it very difficult to undo, just like former President Trump had just canceled the executive action. So you cannot file new applications. The first-time applicants are unable to do that. So you can continue to renew your DACAs, but you cannot file the first-time applications. And hopefully, once the rule's in place, presuming that it does not get litigated, then it will open up again for people that would be eligible for the deferred action.
Right.
Anything else on there?
Yeah, this other area where for victims of crimes, there is a major push by USCIS to really try to resolve this delay. And for those who don't know, I'm referring to a U visa, and that is for victims of certain crimes. So certain immigrants who are here in the United States who have been victimized. And I'm talking about certain criminal activities, and the law lists those types of crimes out. If the person has been victimized and cooperates with the police or law enforcement or the prosecutors, that serves the basis to obtain what's called a U visa. It's a U visa or U status, like the letter U. And with this status, the person is able to work here and live here without fear of deportation, and it serves the basis in the future. It's a stepping stone to later becoming a lawful permanent resident. And so the problem is, gosh, when the U visas came out, the processing time, it was very very short. The problem is that every year they give 10,000 visas, right? And since I don't know, 5 years, I'm going to guess here that the number of applicants has increased because of a lot of things. There's more people reporting, there's more outreach programs where people know about this option. So there was approximately 270,000 people, immigrants who applied for the U visa, and that's pending right now. And the annual cap is 10,000.
Yeah.
So it's taking roughly about 5 years just for the immigration officer to pick up the file and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And if they approve it, they get on a waiting list. If there's no visa available, which there's not going to be a visa available because there's not that many visas to give out, they're going to be on a secondary waiting list, and they're going to wait for 2 years until a visa finally becomes available, and they get the visa. Now they enjoy the full benefits. So now what happened, and I think this is the right move. There's still some concerns about how they're handling it, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And this is for those who file their applications and they need to work. I mean, waiting 8 years, or that's just ridiculous. So under the new policy, USCIS is going to be conducting what they call it's a fancy word, bona fide credibility determination. Basically, what that means is that they're going to look at all the applications, the U visa applications that are pending, and they're going to see which ones look legit, that look credible. And there are other checks where they look at the person's history. And if everything after that initial review, if they give the thumbs up, they haven't made a decision yet, but if it looks like it might be approved, then they go ahead and send a notice that the applicant can now apply for work authorization, which is great. The problem is there's a line for that. I'm getting individuals who applied in 2017, 2018, and they're now barely getting to those cases. Mm-hmm. They haven't gotten to the recent ones, although there are some reports that they're starting to do, some from this year or last year, but for the most part, they still have to wait. But it's a step into the right direction, in my opinion.
That's great. It's an important process. Just wanted to remind the general rule within various counties and jurisdictions is that if the crime occurred more than a year ago or it's been a year, then the law enforcement generally does not like to issue the basically precursor to the U visa, which would be the U visa certification. So the victim has to reach out and be a victim of those particular crimes and be cooperative mm-hmm. with the investigation with the law enforcement. And so and then they should reach out and approach the law enforcement about the U visa certification. And many times, especially immigrants that may not have status are fearing any type of retaliation, or just depending on the jurisdictions they are in, and so they won't say anything. And we see this in consultations where somebody was 2013 or 2015, and so then it really will depend on the type of a crime and the policies that they're implementing. I mean, some serious crimes, we've been successful 6-7 years later, even from like more conservative counties here in North Texas, where they worked with us and issued the certification, so then the person can apply for the U visa petition. So before you can even apply, you have to get the certification. And so, some jurisdictions are kind of loosening up that 1 year rule, and they're just taking it case by case. But it's important to just consult with an experienced immigration attorney and then go and seek that certification from law enforcement.
Yeah.
All right, Nick.
We'll do a show on that for sure, because we get
and we've done that in the past. And for the viewers, again, our office, the law firm, handles all types of U.S. immigration, your family base, your citizenships and green cards. Then we defend people from removal, from deportation proceedings in court with litigators, experienced litigators that provide that type of assistance in the defense. We file appeals with Board of Immigration Appeals, with federal courts and circuit courts. Nick is very successful appellate lawyer that had also litigated and was heard before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, which is dubbed the most conservative circuit court in the nation. And so he had his time before the judges. And then we'll also focus on employment-based immigration and investments. Also, what's referred to as the talent visas and other things that I've mentioned earlier, the I-9 employer compliance. And so, again, for any immigration needs, we're here for you. Last Friday, we had a wrap up of our own. We had an end of the year dinner with our staff, and we're typically we started this trend a few years ago. Had a party, but because of the COVID precautions, we just had a luncheon, or actually dinner. So we shared a meal and just had fun and played some games and hand out some prizes and gave out some recognitions and certificates of excellence to our staff. We have exceptional staff, starting at the front, our reception, our intake department, through admin, administration, accounting, paralegals, and attorneys. I mean, everybody that works for us and works with us on the team is just exceptional. So we celebrated with them, and it was really good to see everybody last Friday.
Yeah, it was really good. And it gives you a good feeling to see that the people who are helping you, see, Mari and I, we just go there. We're the pretty faces, right? And so we meet with y'all and we consult with you. But the cooks behind the scene, these are the real helpers that share our vision, and they help us realize your goals. And we could not do it without them.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if there's anything else we wanted to add. Just wanted to remind everybody to like our page, share it with with your friends, so you could stay on top of immigration news. Download our app, the Lawpilot GUARDIAN, that Nick and I basically founded. It's a automation platform that we're processing our cases on, and also this app, this tremendous resource. It gives the user instant notifications, push notifications about any kind of breaking news that we send out. It will provide them with knowledge base about anything dealing with law enforcement, what to say, what not to say. It has pre-recorded statements for those that don't speak the language or they just don't want to talk to law enforcement. So it has pre-recorded messages. And most importantly, that red button in the middle, it is an emergency notification. So whenever that is activated, your emergency contacts will get a text message indicating that you have an emergency, and also the serving provider, the attorney, us, in this instance, we will get notification, and we are able to find the user through GPS on the map and listen to the conversation, which is being uploaded to the cloud. So it is a tremendous asset. Many times we could react when something happens, when somebody gets pulled over. Our clients don't take chances. They don't wait until something happens. As soon as they see the red blinking lights of a police car or whatever danger they might be in, they press the button and they notify us and notify their family. And so we are able to monitor that as well. We have a team that responds 24/7. So if you don't have it, you can scan that QR code, or you can find the link in the comments below and subscribe to it. Again, it's free of charge, and it's a fantastic resource that we came up with a few years ago. We also wrapped up the toy donations, as I mentioned. So hopefully next year we'll do it again. As always, we are here for you, Chavez and Valko. We are your key to immigration solutions. Nick, any parting words?
Well, have a wonderful holiday, and be safe. And you too, Martin. You're going to be traveling. If there are any questions, Martin and I are very accessible, and you can send us an email or a comment. If you agree with something we said or disagree, we want to know. So just have a very safe holiday with your family. Enjoy it, and we'll see y'all next year.
Also wanted to give a shout out to our producer, Joe. And again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everybody, and Happy New Year. And then we look forward to serving you next year in 2022. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Adios.